So we are here for you, to listen to you tonight. So please feel free. We have roving mics that will be used. So first load the round of hands. We'll take 6 hands per round for any proposal and contributions that you like us to have in our own election manifesto. So we'll open up the rounds of hands. The first round is organized for any inputs, proposals. Okay, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6. So we'll start at number 1. Press around.
My name is Amanda Njiba. I'm going to start today by thanking the EFF for being a very progressive organization, and that has always bothered itself about issues that are affecting the black child. Under your leadership, Mr. Julius, we have seen that it's possible to achieve economic freedom in our lifetime. We congratulate you, and we applaud you for your bravery with your team. We thank you for instilling the confidence through your press conferences and through your continuous unwavering support and your radical robustness. Honorable CIC, I know that you are a very busy man, and without wasting your time, I would like to start by sharing my personal pain of being an activist that is black, female, it's worse, and even lesbian. I'm sure that you have noticed, leadership, that a lot of LGBTI people flock in numbers to Cape Town and Johannesburg. Most are there to seek educational opportunities, but sadly others are there to seek refuge and shelter because back home where they come from, a lot of people are not open-minded enough to accept their sexuality. And from a very young age, such as 8 or younger, signs of homophobia and condemnations are in black and white. And it's very scary to see an entire village casting expulsions against such people and rejecting them. Let me start giving a little history and depth about the situation at the Malema. Most of these young people are deserted by their family, and they are told to never come back home if they continue being gays and lesbians, as if it's a choice. And therefore they start being homeless and roam around the streets of Bloemfontein and Melville. When schools are closed, at the Malema we don't have shelter. When we sign up for gyms so that we can be able to take showers in there, because back home we are not allowed. We spend most of our holidays at McDonald's, not because we can afford it, but we are there for the free Wi-Fi, just to push the day-to-day lifestyle of being an LGBTI person that lives in South Africa. I opened an entertainment company where I host gay safe spaces at baseline most of the time. I have donated 45% of my income to employ my fellow LGBTIQ to be part of the economic structures. Some of them don't work because they are being discriminated against every semester. I have written letters and letters to your office seeking for funding for these events that I host. I pray that by the time I walk out of here, a promise from this EFF of at least on the 16th of December when I host my event, I can have something to host and not even book mediocre artists because that's what we can afford. I believe that we also deserve proper entertainment from proper artists because we are humans just like anyone else and we deserve quality. A person like me, normally annually in their events, I welcome 10,000 people plus at baseline. And with that 10,000 people I've welcomed, not even one sponsor was there. I walked out of there with 37,000 and 70,000 of it I had to give it to my fellow people that I know that they don't have homes. I know that these are the people that help me mobilize the numbers so that this event is a success. Gays that live, there is a group at Lutuli House that coached me, that asked me that I can bring the numbers because my events are the top of the town and I trend for 2 weeks without a doubt after my drawing planning started. I trend. But me trending doesn't bring anything to the LGBTI. I trend for 2 weeks and after that for the whole year it's quiet, no one is saying anything. There is a certain awards show that is being funded by the government of Gauteng that I will not mention, which is attended by the most elite gays of Rosebank and Sentin and all those best places. And people like me that are on the ground, that are mobilizing the lesbians and gays of Oslo, Tembisa and everyone else that is being raped. I am the one that is filling buses from my pocket to say, guys, we don't know this lesbian that was raped, but let's go there with banners and just support him. Just support this case so that they can see that the LGBTI is still alive. I have been given more than 5 warnings at work. Because every time there's a court case of either a married lesbian or any gay, I am there. I take a day off. I do not even negotiate with my boss. Because if a white person had to have a dog that dies today, they will give him or her a gift. To you, Mr. Malema, to show you that I was called to serve the LGBTI community. I gain nothing from this yet, but I am hoping and actually fund this project that I'm pushing. At least, if we can find us a small table here by the headquarters of EFF for us to open just a service desk for any gay or lesbian or bisexual, transgender, anyone can walk in there and say, guys, I've been chased away from work because I'm gay or because I've came out to my boss or any other way that you feel violated. I need that place. I'm willing to quit my job and actually sit there and work. All I'm asking you, sir, is that you take this request into your heart because chances are I will never see the CIA face to face and up close like this. And I can never be able to present this to anyone else except you. I know that you fight anything that is bothering a black child. And this is a black child that is gay. It's even worse for us. Thank you.
The House of Black, the leadership of the EFF, Dr. Tulani Klawana, one of the old activists, LGBTI activists, from the time of the investment of the petition of the Strategic Law up to date. Also director of the National LGBTI Health Campaign and Soweto HIV/AIDS Councillors Association. Babu Malema, the LGBTI will seek political home. We've been used, we've been attending our meetings under the leadership of them. Some people probably were it's too too much. And now, every day, men and women, the LGBTQI, we seek political home. After receiving an invitation from the brother, I said to myself, somehow EFF is coming out of the closet. Of the closet, it suggests that it will do otherwise. Not like the country claim they have a desk for the LGBTI, and you'll find the old white men, and 2, 3, 4 white, black, gay men who are untouchable. So, Malema, I think this is not the last forum, because it's only an invitation today, and some of us, we are leading our constituencies, go to Pretoria, we go to Esminde, we go to Soweto. So we are prepared, if EFF is prepared, to use us to guide the policy that will suggest otherwise, as far as EFF is concerned, moving forward. Go out towards the LGBTI desk or league, but we need a representative, be it the legislature, be it the national parliament, so that even our programs within our higher learning institutions, we still find our hate crimes, especially for our own sisters who are out about being gay women or being lesbians. You know, yes, for gay men, somehow, it's not bad. Like women are being abused all over the place. Once you say you are gay or you are lesbian, and there's that notion of gay men, they've got money. We are also being used, especially by notion. And within this community, we are talented and we are learners. Make no mistake. So when I told my former party LC 2012, Uguti Mount receive a PhD at MJ, I never even got that support. They told me, we need a political home that will use us and not see as the real intent and make it work. We have one.
Viva EFF, viva! Viva! Viva EFF, viva! Viva! Let me start by saluting His Majesty, the leadership of EFF, the person of Malema. I respect, I salute. When I am, and various leaders seated in my front, please, you are all saluted by my humble self. When I'm a Biafran-born South African citizen, when I say Biafran, a lot of us might be confused. Biafran is another suburb or another country in Nigeria where we have been, suffering since way back independent date, fighting for our own freedom, economically, and all of that. I am by name Michael Ifeanyi Okonkwo. It is nearly 2 decades I'm living in this country. As such, having been married with family, I was able to get the citizenship. And I've been voting ever since I'm in this country. But I decided to change, joining the EFF. The reason is because so many times, we, the foreigners that end up being citizens here, are being treated in a different way. People see us differently. We are called with different names. Kwere, whatever you can name them. And it pains me so much that while we are being treated in that manner, when we see the white people, the Indians, the Chinese, they are being treated with respect by the same person who is calling me Kwere and different names. So it pains me a lot. And in this society, the freedom of South Africa today did not just come by the efforts of ANC alone. It is by the support of various African countries, which South Africa, a lot of people might not know, like my home country, Nigeria. I was made to know that 60-something billion was given to ANC, gain freedom for South Africa. I was made to know that people like Mbeki was in Nigeria some other time while fighting for the freedom of South Africa. So with that in mind, it baffles me a lot when my fellow brothers and sisters sees me differently and treat me like I am a Kwere, calling me by that name. As I speak before you, my leader, I'm one person who have experienced, when they say xenophobic attack, I experienced it 3 times, where I lost everything on a spot, and I walk away, starting out life afresh. Sometime in 2008, I'm running a club, Bafana Park, and under xenophobic attack, I lost it. I walk away. I started a new business. In 6 months, I'm attacked again. The same thing follows even today, because where I ran my organization today, the Little Rock Angel Preschool, a person who sees himself like a hijacker to own the whole of Joburg. I put it that way because he told me that he owned 200 houses around Joburg, and now my own, where I ran my organization, is his target to take it over. Why? I'm a Kwere. He looked down on me, and then he looked at it. No, I must take this guy out of that house. But by the grace of, or the support of EFF in my area, I am winning over that issue. Through the support of people like Sean, who is the leadership of EFF in my area. The moment I reported my case to him, he summoned the gentleman, and we had a meeting in the police station, involved community, everything was sorted fine. Okay, to cut my long story short, what I want to say is that I love the good job EFF is doing, and I'm pleading that as you are about to draft your manifestos for the coming election, let the condition of the other players non-citizenship South Africans, or rather citizens who are other players from other countries, let them be considered. So that a lot of my brothers telling me, why you joining EFF? Because EFF cannot, I told them, no, EFF is the only people who can lead me and you to a better freedom we can enjoy. That the EFF leadership is the only one who stands to speak against the without fear of failure.
Good evening, Mr. MC. Good evening to the leadership and good evening to all the attendees. My name is Lionel from EFF Ward 81 in Pretoria. Just to actually highlight some of the plight that the LGBTIQ+ community is actually facing. It's first and foremost discrimination. Secondly, it's corrective rape to our sisters, and killing that is unfortunate that is taking place. But the one thing that we actually would like to challenge the EFF on is actually having more of these engagements constantly, just so that we can actually deal with the plight that is actually affecting our communities, because the plight is not only going to take place only once. The second thing is with regard to the leadership of the EFF. We would just like to find out what is their position with regard to what is happening in Tanzania. We are seeing the plight that is actually taking its pipeline and also leadership from other parties. And fourthly, with regard to our community members, I hope that we can actually take the message that we are taking to you here today and start having our own dialogues within our support groups, just so that we can actually try to deal and dilute the richness of the hatred and the toxicness that is actually affecting our communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You're number 5. Number 5 for Peter. Yes.
Meeting leadership. The PM Councillor of the EFF, Dr. The EFF had between adopted closing and one of the PM Councillor of the EFF. President, this community is facing a lot of challenges. Number one, I would like to share the story whereby the case is the case that I'm dealing with, especially when it goes to the police. There was one gay, he was raped. He went to the police station. When he was there, the same police, instead of helping her, I can say that. They even took Mutu Bani Sabar demonstrate we want to do what unfortunately, I was invited on at West High. So in Turkey, they go back to our CCT members, when we go to the police station, we face more discrimination. When we apply, we go for the interviews because and we know as gay people we have more talent. You can have your PhD and put gay here. There'll be a difference as if you've got a PhD also. As this community, and Limoti Clinic in Haria, we face more problems. Instead of helping, but they never train or but more about to say or Siki oil so as this community, even with the adoption, we get the difficulties as the gay people. But monitor about but when it comes to people bastarate, it's so very different. So we have the gay people that they are stable, whereby they can adopt, but to save a better future. But we face the challenges, we can't have the access on that. I'll pause for now.
My name is Joyce Machiva, and I'm so proud that most of my LGBTI organization is here. To say, as an LGBTI organization, we are struggling, and I'm happy that Dr. Mhlongo, my mentor, my boss, my sister, my everything is here. As an LGBTI organization, we are struggling. Like one also went to HIV/AIDS Counselors Association, Elukovila Gazi Street. I was trained and educated by Dr. Mhlongo. But the most important thing is that really the gay community are really serious. Nakile mwana wa Dr. Mhlongo, I've managed to recruit bana to build a project ya uphela bana. But I'm not recognized because of my sexuality. And it's been 3 years asking and begging Orki to see you. I've got about 320 kids in my program. Without my boss, I'm nothing. But that's the organization that we have, Eli Moriarty, Vilagazi. But that is too silly in most cases. And I don't know what we are supposed to do, but our organization as an EFF, to say, because if I have to run around in the civic center, I'm a lesbian mom or a lesbian granny, probably problems solved, but I don't discriminate. But I'm here, and but the things that are happening to us, we feel that way. We are not the type of society. But do not feel as do not travel out, and I'm not sure it's wearing or who disam or Luanelan, healing doctor from. But that's finally one. Where is the community? Why should I go to Batuaba to go back to somewhere else, relating as an organization? But to look about Tuso, because we are doing a great job and we are here to stay. I never look about as a gay community. We are here. It's an LGBTI. And I think as an LGBTI, we are doing better things than heterosexual. I'm sorry to say. We are looking at most of the gay community are but another programs in our organization. But if it's total funding, so hashtag, we need to be helped.
Oh, that was number 6. Okay, we will open up a second round. Before we open up a second round, I'm going to hand over to the chairperson to facilitate the last round that we're going to have. Over to you, Momisa.
Thank you, Secretary. I think you could have continued. I introduced myself earlier, so let's take the round of heads from the side. Okay, we'll take both. It's fine. I think maybe, yeah. There's a hand at the back. Coming with the maroon burgundy top, you'll be number 1. The gentleman in the glasses will be number 2. Number 3, number 4, number 5. Number 6. Thank you.
So my we have the vote, we have the system here too. Yes, because we have the system here too. Everyone on our right, including our transgender woman. And then if you go there, you request the therapy we told you have been told which is I don't think is fair to an extent if you want to do the transit, which is right everyone right? But then also for 20 years, so you can imagine in 20 years, what if someone dies along the way? Because 20 years is very long. So you don't get from the party leaders, so at least let's negotiate to that part. Be low process in the because I think someone, if decided to go to transition, that person is very ready. Make up the English. I can use this just name this as so, which is discouraging. Nenye into yoguti sinera yoguti tina sifuna presenta kanjani. Sinera yoguti tina sifuna ukuthi sibizwe kanjani. But then you can imagine nala sebenza khona siya forced ukuthi sithola ama title singabafuni. But then we've got our own right ukuthi si decide which title ezosetshenziswa kithi. And still sisase healthy footing when we are especially when I say a person kakhulu akumelanga ukugula. Wakhula yazi ke ukuthi okay lezi zinto esizenza esingenziwa anyone. So your treatment ayikho fair, hence kubonakala kage amaningi resort to abe izangoma because they know ukuthi okay angeke ngibuzwe nix I'm free kanti kulapho ke maybe angakathola treatment right kunye dinga medical attention efuna imithi eslow but then due to neglect esithola lapho nokunganakwa nemistreating esithola lapho we tend to not to go there anymore. To the other side, the tradition, which is a tradition yiyo esalawayo, those people abekho judgmental to us. But then also the system esivulekile because sinamabantu ukuthi siye lapho siyamistreetwa sibizwa ngamagama okuzogcina ngathi futhi, so which is nenye into eyenza ukuthi abantu banga-understand ukuthi why more gays baba sentweni zokuthi babe izangoma. Most of the factors esiphushela lapho ukuthi masize ngapha ziningi izinto esizitholayo sizasitholi, if sizothola okuncane later futhi whereas ngapha siya-accommodate wena. So but then if kungaba nezwi elizosikhulumela kakhulu ukuthi whoever ofuna ukwenza into ayifunayo ngomzimba wakho allowed, whoever uzofuna ukuzipresenta the way afuna ngakhona une-right still. If ufuna ubizwa ngosisi, it's my right, there's no one okumele angitshela ukuthi ngobhuti. If you still I know what I'm saying that.
Protocol observed. Says you are recognized YouTube camera and all the ladies in front. Without further ado, I think it's rather shameful that the LGBTI community has to be centered here in a supposedly constitutional democracy. The audacity of the government to treat the LGBTI community with so much disdain. It is disconcerting in every sense of the word. I mean, the powers that be, looking at law enforcement and healthcare, by the way, I'm going to address it very quickly. They have no testicular fortitude to deal with issues decisively. Like this is a said, when they go to these stations and so forth, they treat them too much the same, and then ought to be treated with the due contempt that it truly deserves.
Sorry, you said there's a result on the song. Can you please continue?
Alright, as I was saying, the manner in which the LGBTI community is treated with ought to be treated with the due contempt that it truly deserves. The likes of Oba Begete and Oma Suta ought to speak to the powers that be. I mean, if you look at the killings of lesbians in Cape Town, it's disconcerting in every sense of the word. And well, you say it's not virtual. But your complaints, if you have complaints insofar as the healthcare fraternity is concerned, you have the healthcare funds run by Prof. Malema. Get the appropriate details and report that as it just cannot be that 24 years into this democratic dispensation, human beings are treated with such disdain. Thank you.
Our President, Mr. Manifesto, I would like to address Oguti, since Niti Lifuna Ama votes as on support as EFF, Benkeda Oguti, we constitution in, or you manifesto in, this group of us as colored people because they are part of South Africans. And another thing, sotana nokuthi futhi abafowethu abangana-matric nabo ukuthi baconsideriwe ukuthi kube khona i-workplace, ku-create i-workplace for them ukuthi banga-discouraged because bangana-matric. Because imagine one ohamba esitradini without anything ukuthi ayithathe ayisendlini okanye anything ukuthi ayidle, we-end up athathelwa i-crime. So igebengu ezigcwele emalokishini okanye ematawuni abazenzi because of indlala. And abanye abafowethu end up abazomthela to drug abuse because of stress ababanazo, because of ungasebenzi, onutshwela ukuthi ama-parents nawo awasebenzi. So I would like you to look at the issue of drugs and substance abuse among our youth, even nama-adults are using ama-drugs, aba-abuse even alcohol without control. Because, okay, they say you need to drink responsible. So I think we need to implement more education about drug and substance abuse among the community so that it's of our responsible communities was South Africa. as people abafuna under LGBTIs, we would like ukuthi sithole i-freedom masihamba lapha eplantini. We don't like ukuthi si-discriminate ukuthi sibizwe ngamagama sithathwe as ama-outcast, because we are part of i-creation uNkulunkulu naye. So we would like you to open up doors for LGBTI communities as well and include them in your cabinet as well. We would like to have a representative as gay communities. Kungapheleli nje statistics ukuthi no, we have gay fellows bakhona, it's okay, because we are humans, we also have rights. And we would like you to promote small enterprises in order ukuthi poverty izophela, because without economic empowerment, there's no way ukuthi sizokhona ukuthi siqede poverty in South Africa. So we would like you again to implement more education about LGBTI groups, so that people may have the understanding ukuthi is not an option ukuthi ube gay or ube lesbian. Is the way in nature it takes its course nakhona. I've never been voted for to be gay, but it is the gift that I've been given by God. As Jesus Christ says even in the Bible, being unique is a gift from God. It's not a decision that you make. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am so sad, actually. You know why? The reason is to the current ruling party. Several times. We did debates, we did everything. We asked even the Premier, David Makhura, for a match. They said we're going to meet Carlton V, of which they never came. We were actually attended by the councillors fair, of which when today I will respect you, because as a president of a party, you are present today. Refaisane Matata is an LGBTIQ plus amisebenzini, as they even say, of which is true. Kampora Barangating, they mentioned. The community Saron Hadirak said, our parents, that's where it starts. Because someone mentioned Kore, for the sake of at least the following day, as friends, furthermore to that, as friends, we become enemies. Reason being, we take things from each other. Because of, I don't have a place where I belong. I get control, I accept. I get constructing, people are even worse. I don't even know where to go. More gay community, because of they feeling much pressure, alien day. It is true. I was telling the previous speaker just before we can start, can you believe we get to the command today? At what time? At 2 a.m. There was a funeral, most brothers like that. I went to hell. You know why? I am not here. It's because I need them to know. Why is it? The community. Why? You know, I had a question one day, as an individual, what if we another party and then that party, they amend like shift all the rights and the gays. Because we are now present. Are we going to be taken, all of us, and be killed? We don't know. And there are so many questions. So many questions that are unanswered. But we are God. You mentioned. We can't feed ourselves. They've mentioned for grade 12 as some of the other members will at least ever recognize you rather because of our but discriminate in this South Africa. South Africa is so painful now, more especially when it comes to LGBTI. We feel like 1994, before 1994, in South Africa, the humiliation, you don't understand. But one of us graduates, I don't know about someone who he is gay or lesbian, or how do they feel. It's more than anyone else. Yes, it's true. I'm a member of ANC. I need to know from you. Surely I will get the answer today. If you get the chance to speak with us, should I call and Liet Sebulai vote for EF? What would be the challenge that would be there to the gay communities? Thank you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Dr. Talemu and I'm speaking as a healthcare provider for a lot of clients and patients who are of gender minorities. And I just want to remind us that, a lot of the times when we have these discussions around LGBTQA++ questions, the tone is often one that people are asking for a favor or exceptional treatment or, to come up with things that are yet to exist. The Bill of Rights, the Constitution of South Africa gives, people rights to equality, dignity, freedom and security, freedom from all violence, access to health care, freedom of trade, fair practices, being free from arrest or being detained without due course or process. And it's on the basis of these legal frameworks that we need to understand that the requests that are coming from the floor today are based on those constitutional rights. And the failures up to this point are a form of violence. And the failures on the part of government and governing party, whether it's on the national, provincial or municipal level, they themselves are enablers of violence. Because when you have poor people in rural areas or peri-urban areas who depend on the state to give them services which are their rights by being in this country, where do those people go to? Those people have no recourse. People don't even know their rights that they have to be who they think they want to be. The state of healthcare in this country, no one has to even state it. We know it's in crisis. And where does a transgender man go, for example, if they need affirming healthcare, or a transgender woman who needs assistance with affirming care? Someone said earlier that the waiting list for surgery is 20 years. The sad news is it's now 25 years. And if you think of a gay person who only has the confidence and the bravery to live and express themselves, let's say around early 20s, mid-20s, a 25-year waiting list is a lifetime for the members of the LGBTIQ community. If you think of the intersections of age, gender, class, migration, a lot of migration, even across provinces in South Africa, we know it happens a lot. And all the people who are migrating from other African countries who are undocumented, when everyone is asked for a proof of address before you can access rights, based services like healthcare. What does that mean in a country like South Africa, where it's so difficult, even for those people who can afford services, to even just enter the system? The system is a closed loop for many people. If you are hard of hearing, you are physically or differently abled, which clinic can you just go into and just get services that are ready and dignified for you? A lot of people are raped, and it's a specific hate crime for Black lesbian women. It's not just a general crime of sexual violence, but it is a specific crime. And unless we look at these issues deep enough, we'll never come up with solutions that are integrated, for example, between justice, policing, health, forensic services, and social development, because everyone then just wants to just brush it off as well. There's just a lot of crime in this country. But the issues that are affecting members of the LGBTIQ community have an added layer of discrimination, violence, and then obstruction. And language is a big issue, because even when you look at media production and the content that's out there, even if, as you guys write and consider what your manifestos will look like, we need to be very aware and very deliberate in how we frame the issues of inclusion. When you think of intersex children who are still born in this country and are being scheduled for surgery by medical doctors 6 weeks when they are neonates, what does that mean for the child when they grow up, when they haven't been consented to those procedures? People are deciding for children who are born what genitalia they should have, and there's this obsession with genitalia that's not helping anybody, and yet people are not creating these systems where those children can actually thrive in societies and in communities where they remain to be the ones who are, again, victims of crime. The post-trauma care is an important issue because, again, we know how patriarchy works. It's not that men are not being raped, but even straight men, when they do rape men, it's usually gay men, right? It's a power issue. And so how do we then frame and talk about issues of sexual violence affecting men without then erasing gay men, which are still at a particular risk of sexual violence, from men also. Issues of abortion care and services. The issue of sex work decriminalization. All of these things are important because even the way the funding structures are in South Africa in terms of Department of Health, which should be assisting a lot of these individuals, the NGOs, because the health department doesn't have internal capacity to implement programs that are basic, they depend on NGO partners which receive money from foreign aid or global aid, specifically from the United States. People are being made to sign clause in their contracts that they will not support decriminalization, that they will not refer or give information to people around abortion care. Those are all the things that are unethical and unconstitutional that continue to happen in South Africa today. And so as the EFF leadership considers what a manifesto looks like, the voters that you are trying to appeal to, we need to think really deeply about what it will make the EFF different. But more importantly, how will the rights that we have already in the Constitution, will they be matched by funding and budgets? Because it's one thing to promise things in manifestos. It's another to budget for them and ensure that people's constitutional rights can be respected and amended. And again, the structural drivers of violence, the structural drivers of drug abuse and all of those things need to be considered within the bigger context of society, because that's where these things are happening. And unless we have a leadership that can be on national television and affirms people's rights to be who they are beyond the paper, it's important. You need to be seen to be supporting. And sometimes allyship is that. The leadership of the EFF, CIC, he will lose nothing if he's on national television tomorrow, today, tonight, and affirming the rights of the LGBT community, because he's a straight man. And we need to start thinking about what active allyship looks like. And I think it's very, very important as we start the process of engaging the public and finding out what people's thoughts are, what their feelings are, but what they really want in terms of action. What does active allyship look like? And unless people who have power are willing to risk it all for those who don't have, will still be paying lip service.
Community. First of all, guys, I run a men show, I just put a men show. It's understanding of men. I always call it men, different type of men, different types of men, in order for us to educate our citizens, our own people.
Excuse me, please try to take the mic.
When we're speaking and you know yourself, guys, our community knows itself. Gay community, guys, you know your weaknesses, you know your faults. First accept that. Because today we have an opportunity that is given by a party that is young, ran and organized by a young person. That is inspirational already. What I'm trying to say already, alright, we need a desk. Each and every department, each and every station, each and every place, from safety, security, health, HR, where we need to have a gay representative, a lesbian representative there. That's the only time we're going to address all these issues. Again, if you're a police station, you are addressed by a straight person, will never understand. It's a clownness to your life. Good to pay out to a clown because they cannot address your complaint. I mean, if you're a guy walking in a police station, say you are raped, it's like, you're crazy. You understand? At this moment in my community, there's a boy who was 14-year-old, raped a 7-year-old kid. All of this. So guys, this is not an illness that starts. We need to start educating. We need to start to be honest with ourselves and taking care of each other. Because we do not take care of each other as a community, as a gay community. Let's be honest. Let's start there first. We do not. We don't even know our needs at this moment of what we want. But we want to change people. Who straight bring changing because he's willing or accepting, who accommodate, who understand, who bears mood. But then we want to convert them. We don't have to convert anyone. Just know who you are and deal with them. Mr. Malema, the only thing I ask for you is that fight for us to have each and every representative in each and every department in this country. That's all. We will solve all our problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see how much more appetite we have for inputs from the sector. Then we take our last round of hands. 1. Number 6, and that will be our last speaker. Thank you.
Sanmanani, so I'm from here, I'm fighting from here. So basically, I just want to speak from a position of a fighter, right? I generally think that this sitting isn't enough. I feel like, because I've been seeing a lot of things where people of the LGBTQI+ community are saying that they feel like sittings like this are just political parties using them, trying to show face and acting like we're supportive of their rights, like we actually want to hear their voices and those sorts of things. And for me, those are very legitimate concerns, because at the end of the day, after the sitting, a trans woman, a gay man, a lesbian woman, a trans man can walk outside and be attacked by an EFF member because we don't take the same time to sit amongst ourselves, and not even amongst ourselves, but to create that policy within our organization to try and educate people about LGBTQI+, rights. We don't take the time to educate people in our organization about what it means to be gay, to be trans, to be queer, to be gender non-conforming, to be lesbian, and what that would do for your economy, what that would do to your access to education, what that can do to your access to healthcare facilities, those sorts of things. But then you'll still be the same organization that says that we go around fighting for the rights of the working class people, poor people, and we don't realize that sometimes the poorest people, most of the time, the poorest people are members of the LGBTQI+ community because their sexuality hinders them, or their gender hinders them to a lot of access in the country. So I think from my side, what I really want to contribute is that the organization needs to take time to actually put it into our political education about what it means for a socialist movement to include the rights and generally the living of people who are LGBTQI+.
Tumela. My name is Seogezi Mogezi. I represent the Trans Collective Words and Nalani. So my concern today is how problematic I find this space and how not representing the spaces of queer folks and how the space is consisting of a cis heteronormative presentation and also toning that is quite problematic. As you can see, the space should have been filled by queer people, but this is a lie. Why are we lying to our people? Why are we taking our narrative and why are we taking our people's bodies and politics for granted? The space should have been to the people. This is a white monopolistic imperialist spaces that is extremely segregational of queer people. Yet we expect queer people to come into this space and speak about their narratives. Isn't that expropriating? Isn't that exploitation? Isn't that vilifying queer folks and their bodies? I think I'm at the space where I'm tired of having to come to such spaces and listen to rhetorics, listen to ideologies of people, but implementation, don't know, right? People are dying. Every 30 seconds, a black woman is killed, brutally raped, or burned. Every 1 hour and 30 seconds, a black trans woman in their own spaces is burned, and her narrative is not even politicized. Don't even get me started about politics at higher education. Student cards, gender titles, preferred names, preferred pronouns, dololo, right? Yet we are here, we speak about students. What are we speaking about? What are we speaking about? Why are we lying to ourselves? Because right now as I'm speaking, someone is being brutally murdered. I'm at that stage that I am sick and tired. Even my sick is tired, and even my tired is tired. Because I'm at the space that I can't constantly be giving cis heterosexual, or we call them cis-het people, and narrative. I'm sick and tired of always having to put my body on the line for EFF. How about EFF puts their body on the line and takes the bullet for me? And let's talk about safety and securitization around campuses. We are being raped. You go to the student affairs, you tell them that I was raped. They're like, what the hell? How does a black queer woman within the space is raped? As political as you, as robust, as vocal as you can't be raped. So the sense of erasure and a sense of policing around rape and rape culture is only applicable when it's being applied to cisgender heterosexual community, but not the queer community. So are we being contradictory? Aren't we being condescending? Aren't we perpetuating to the stereotypes and validifying or actually validating the fact that it's okay to kill and to burn and rape queer people, but it's not okay to kill cisgender heterosexual people, right? And now I'm at the stage where that University is failing us so much, but yet we came to votes. Why not take the space to the people in the rural? Why not take the space to the Northwest? Why not take the space to Limpopo? Why not take the space generally, right? We can't be mimicking people's problems inside spaces. We need to be raw, we need to be rogue, we need to be robust. And that's the way I am, that's where my politics are. I'm not going to be nitpicking, I'm not going to be taking sides in regard to EFF or NC. The matter is here, the matter is that people are dying every split second. You understand? I'm not even saying every second, every split second. A person, a queer person, a black poor rural, invisibilized person who does not have the privilege, the language to stand here, to be speaking about the issues. And also people can also understand that gay and lesbians are not the same, sexuality and sexual orientation are not the same, gender and gender identity are not the same. Can we stop clustering everyone under gays, scabbers? Oh guys, we are erasing people. We can't be racists. We can't be racist at this, particularly in a post-decolonial time, where we're trying to fight so hard for spacing for differently abled folks. So can you just also check yourself and hold yourself to account?
Number 3.
I think one of the things that's very clear is that there's a certain commonality in the different issues that we all go through as LGBT people, with just the subjectivity of where we are from. So if I'm from a township, then I have these particular issues and those particular issues. But I think for me, the most important thing is accountability. As we come in, we take time away from our families and from our work and all of that, and we come and express what our difficulties are, and we hope that we are being listened to, we are going to be taken seriously, and these concerns we are raising will actually make it into a final manifesto that gets communicated to the entire country, and hopefully influence, the voting tone or the voting appetite next year. But then, whatever the outcome of the vote next year, my concern is how do we start holding the EFF accountable? So if we then say that vote comes out and, the EFF is a ruling party at national level or in a certain province, how do we then start saying, we said to you in 2018, we have these particular issues. Are you going to be fulfilling on the issues that we said we would, we were going through? How do we turn around and actually say, you said to us, you wanted to listen to us, and you said, what are your issues? We told you what our issues are you acting on the issues that we expressed? Secondly, having made the statement that there is no freedom without economic freedom, the biggest issue that we have in this country is inequality, poverty, and unemployment, especially youth unemployment, and considering that we have a room full of young people, half of us in here could possibly be unemployed, or half of us could be living hand to mouth. So how do we start engaging LGBTI people and actually understanding what the issues are that influence our inability to actually be full economic participants in this country? Part of the issues is actually acknowledging that transgender people make the choice to become sex workers, not because primarily it's the first port of employment, but because they can't get work elsewhere. As a transgender person who's not while struggling with getting hormonal therapy, you then struggle to actually go into an office and be interviewed, because the moment you get in there, and how do you then start working in a place like that? How do you start mixing bathrooms in a place like that? As a gay man, we're unable to actually, rise within the echelons of a corporate entity, because it's like, why is he bringing a man to the work social? Why is she bringing a girl to the work social? That then influences how we then start growing, how we're able to actually access the full extent of the economy in this country. So my biggest thing is, how do we hold you accountable, having expressed to you what our issues are, and how do you start aligning what the motif of the party has been throughout since its existence to actually include LGBTI people fully, and making sure that we are, living a different time as LGBTI people. Thank you.
We at number 5, I think, yes. Please come, hurry up, Mike.
Mine is very short. It's about inclusion of LGBTQI plus community in public spaces and in all spaces. Ever since I was in primary school with my queer friends, I've noticed that they've always struggled with the issue of bathrooms in public spaces. And I think that's a matter of agency, and it needs to be addressed, because you go to malls, there are no gender inclusive bathrooms. You go to workspaces, everywhere you go, the toilets are not inclusive. So I think that is a matter that really, really needs to be addressed, because on top of the trauma that they have to every day live with, now also when you're in a public space and you need to use the restroom, now you have to, figure out how you're going to be able to navigate that space, which is a thing that as cishet people, we don't even have to think about. So because we don't have to think about it, we take it for granted. So I think that's a very important issue. And secondly, I feel there needs to be a way where we could be able to hold misbehaving cops and nurses accountable, because it is a known thing that they mistreat the queer community, and we've been speaking about it for years and years, but now we don't have a body that could say, okay, sister so and so are problematic, therefore this is how they're going to be held accountable, because even their bosses, chances are they are also problematic. So you can't even go to the matron or to the head nurse or to the head of police. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. We had a last.
Good evening, fighters. Mine will be very short. I come from a very small world. We're building it into a big one. It's 167 in Louisville in particular. Where I come from, A lot of people, they are like, you know, the ANC people, they always criticize me. They even calling me my name, they either call me, hey, Julius Malema, or they call me EFF. All right, my point is, the most of the people, we do like with my crew, some of them are here, we do recruitment campaigns every weekend, on Saturdays in most cases. A lot of people who come to us to want to become the members and even ask for the beret and our t-shirts are the foreign people. How do we recruit those people? Are we allowed to recruit those people? Because our
Hello. Please hand over the mic. This meeting is for the LGBTI sector. Thank you. Please, I want to make an appeal, and we're trying to be polite. If you are not from the sector, please don't raise your hands, because then you put us in a difficult position where we have to embarrass you. Let's get, I saw some hands. No, wait. Let's get hands. There's a few hands. Let's first note hands. I will note you. And then there were other hands. Yes, next to the gentleman. Number 2. The Ispoti, this is black. When you see that, number 2. And then you can play a pink, number 3. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tembo. Just a quick imperative question for the EFF. I'd like to know what will you, as a political party, do to curb the high level of microaggression of discrimination in the LGBTQ community that predominantly happen in schools from teachers that are supposed to be knowing better, and more especially from religious individuals that continue to miseducate our community. How are we expected to move forward as an upcoming generation if the teachers themselves are misinforming us as young individuals?
Sanmola, Chuchu, correct one. Sure. Amela, Yatela JFF, Ela Nabuye Amaki, leaders name. Jengabantu thina mhlambe esanganani. Nokwenzeka sizithola si-traumatizing, singa-understand ukuthi umuntu mhlawumbe akakhoni ukuthi asi-disclose efamily. So siyacela ukuthi i-support yenu isincedeni nathi sikhona ukubasapota
Mr. Malema, question ya pele ko parliament. Ask that people at the part, you guys, you selling the country, all the people in South Africa. Like now, the foreigners all over.
Sorry, please hand over the mic.
Listen.
Okay, thank you. We want to thank you, Sithandwa Kunibonga. Thank you very much for all the valuable inputs. Let's settle down. We will now hand over to the President to address us on the basis of all your inputs.
Chairperson, our provincial secretary, members of the provincial command team, members of the central command team, the fellow fighters who are here, the LGBTIQ+ community, we have asked to meet with you so that we can also learn from you what are the issues that are confronting this important community. Because it is not correct that from time to time we may want to behave as if we master all issues. Sometimes it is important to go and hear from the community itself on how we can make the environment more conducive and inclusive for all of us. I've been battling with for instance, the inclusive bathrooms, inclusive cells in prisons and holding cells. Because many people have come forward to say, when we are accused or arrested, worse for useless things like drink and driving, we get subjected to a very horrible environment in the holding cells and all of that. So we called you to say, please help us to formulate a coherent policy which will not only be in the manifesto of the EFF, will also become part of the laws that we are making in Parliament. Because in Parliament, individual members of Parliament can propose a law. And we can propose a law. If the ANC wants to reject it with their majority, they can reject it so that this community can see them for who they are. So you don't have to have majority to propose a law. You can do it an individual member's bill, which gets debated in a relevant committee and then gets presented to the assembly and then it gets passed. Some of the issues you are raising do not require the law. They require action and action now. And therefore the leadership of the EFF will have to be proactive and intervene in some of those immediate issues. Rights are not a choice. You know, the Bill of Rights, we don't even have to write it. Right is what you are inherent. It's inherent to you. You are born with it. That which you are born with, it's your right. Your right to land, your right to be included in the economy, your right to be identified the way you think you were born like. That's your right. It must not be negotiated. It must not be subjected to politicians to now begin to say, we are giving you a right. No one gives you a right. You are born with it. So we must never demand that, no, we must be given our rights by who holds the rights where. No one and we shall fight for those rights to be included in relevant pieces of legislation. Many of you say you are tired of talking. Struggle is a permanent talk. You must never say meetings are useless. It doesn't matter how many times you have to repeat yourself. Let's take example from the ANC. Not everything else is bad about the ANC. The ANC fought for this democracy from 1912 and only got it in 1994. Every meeting they held since 1912, they were talking about democracy. There was nothing new they were talking about it. All those meetings. Can you imagine if they had a day where they said they were tired of talking? Then it means we will not have realized 1994. You talk until you achieve it. For as long as it's not achieved, you must get tired of going anywhere, small or big meeting. You go and express yourself like a scratched CD until someone begins to listen, especially the authorities. So when they say there is a mayor coming, there is a councillor coming, there is EFF president coming, never get tired. As long as you speak to them directly, and they can hear, even if they pretend not to be listening, but the fact that they are here, they got something. So I leave here a much better person today because I've learned directly from you, not from literature, not from distorted newspapers, but from the people who are involved in these daily struggles of ensuring that the rights are being recognized. The most practical thing is there shouldn't be a police station without a gay, lesbian, or a queer. All that must be there. Why? Because those are the people who will understand immediately. Most police stations didn't have women, by the way. They didn't. That's why most police didn't understand those things of women. When you say I'm beaten, domestic violence, they were like, maybe you're disrespectful. Because there were men, all of them, like, I didn't believe in me. If a woman does that to me, I will do the same. Until women were introduced in the front desk of police stations, until separate rooms were created where victims of domestic violence can be listened to, survivors of rape can be listened to by people who are sympathetic, people who understand what you're talking about. So if the space is completely exclusive of gays and lesbians, no one is there to even educate those people. Leave listening to you. Remember that we learn from the people we live with. So once there are such people amongst police, amongst nurses, amongst doctors, amongst health practitioners who say, no, you are wrong. It's not like that. This is how it is. Teaching each other in a friendly environment from your peers and equals. So that when people walk into the police station, you have some element of an understanding because you learned from colleagues. So there is nothing unusual and nothing unreasonable to say some members of this community must be in parliament, must be in the legislature, there must be councillors, there must be in every sphere of life so that they deal with these issues much better. Women have demanded that. They've got their 50%. They are now demanding more because they say, actually, we are more than men. We want more than 50% so that we don't distort the demographics of the country. So let the community as well demand clear representatives. And they were not coming out of the closet. We never had a problem in the EFF about those issues. And this is not actually the first interaction. He can confirm that we in the past had similar interactions. So that's why amongst our public representatives, we've got people from this community who are not discriminated against. They occupy positions in their own right. They are activists in their own right. They are recognized for who they are, and they get to be treated like the rest. So you don't say when they speak, become dismissive and say, no, it's gay, it's power, and I don't know. No. They know that they are leaders in the EFF in their own right. And we seek to actually inculcate that type of culture in society. So we have a big problem with Tanzania. The president of Tanzania, when he came, we were all happy because he was very confrontational with issues of corruption. Dealt with them decisively, but slowly shifted now to dealing with media freedom and the rights of gay and lesbians in that community. We have a big problem with that type of an attitude. He must lead people to live their life freely because they've not chosen to be. They were born with that right, and that right must be. We always make mistakes and say you chose. No, this is the choice they've made. No, it's not a choice. It's an inherent right you are born with. And then you exercise that right. No one can force you when to exercise it. Whether you exercise it after having children, and they say, but this guy's got a child, he was involved with women, all of a sudden he says he's gay. He decided to exercise that right at that time. There's no time frame of when the right can be exercised. It's your right, you choose. So you've got a right to vote. Since 1994, you never voted. Therefore, no one can say to you, since you have not voted in 1994, when you were qualified to vote and you had the right to vote at that time, in 2019 you can't vote. No, you decide when to use the right you have. And in the EFF, we respect that. We want to also make an appeal that more than asking the EFF questions on how it's going to deal with these issues, let's write to the EFF specific things that we want to see in the manifesto of the EFF, particularly as it relates to this community. And then we will debate it amongst ourselves, we'll put it if we agree in our manifesto. Once it finds its expression in the manifesto, then you must know it's a program of action. Because we don't make promises, we make commitments. Once we pronounce on it, we follow it up, we implement it. So you can be guaranteed that once it is in the manifesto of the EFF, it's not a promise, it's a program of action, it's a commitment. And we don't have to be in power. We don't wait to be in power. We use our superior logic to influence the current government and the future government, even if it's not the EFF. Because generally, there is poverty of ideas in our country, particularly in that parliament. So we feed them with ideas. At the beginning, they become very skeptical and they reject the ideas of the EFF. But with time, they become amenable. And they start speaking about EFF ideas as those are their own ideas. And we have no problem at all. I mean, many of you here have been to school. You go and look at when did the EFF speak about doubling of social grants, for instance. We said that in the manifesto of the EFF in 2014 and 2016. And the response of the DA was that this is madness. The EFF is going to collapse the economy. There is no money for doubling of social grants. But today, Musimaimani says the grants must be doubled. There's no way our people can come out of poverty without doubling of social grants. And we always tell him jokingly when we speak to him and say, but that is plagiarism. Because when we said it, you said we're mad. This is not possible. So, and he doesn't ever come back because he must just say in politics there is no plagiarism. That which you say, for sure, some generations said it before you. So we become happy when people repeat the things that we say. We spoke of the land. Many people are now on board, including the most reactionary people. The DA speaks about the land today. We may not agree on how it's going to happen, but at least they are now beginning to say, yeah, but people must get the land. Not the Malema way, they must get it through the title deeds and all that. That's fine. Let's debate their how part, but let's agree on principle. So I'm giving you all of these ideas because once we take your idea and make it a program of action of the EFF, you must be guaranteed everyone else will come on. We spoke free education in this institution that you guys call an institution of white monopoly. It's our institution. We're not going to surrender to white monopoly. If they used to dominate the space, we're here now. And then we must convert it into the people's institution and do away with what whites used to do here, feeding us education of self-hate and introduce an education of self-love so that we are not apologetic when we graduate from this institution. We must not graduate wanting to be like whites. We must graduate wanting to be like them. So when we spoke free education, many people said it's not possible. This is madness, it's not going to happen. We said this a long time ago. The student command said, Zofunda Genkan. And then they introduced free education after closing of registration. Because they thought they were being clever. Zuma announces after registration, now there's going to be free education next year. Knowing that no one will go and register for free because already those who didn't have money didn't go and register because they knew they would not afford. Once he announced that, we said those who have not registered and have got appetite for education, they must go to school. They went. But many people opposed us. It's just that we are a country which forgets very easily and quickly. Many people said, no, he's mad. He can't say children must go to school after registration. They are going to cause stampede. He wants to kill children. No one must go to school. And then universities, one by one, began to say, no, but those who still want to register, they can come to the university. You remember the council of the VCs said, no one must go to the university, the registration is closed if you're not registered. Then they had to reissue the second statement like, yeah, well, you can come to the universities and all that. So the point I'm making is that these ideas, once we make them a program of action, they will see the light of day. You can be guaranteed about that. When we spoke about President Mbeki that it's a problem, many of you laughed and said, this man is very powerful, nothing will happen to this guy. He went to pension very fast, not the way he had planned. When we spoke about Zuma, many people said this guy is untouchable, these ones are playing with fire. And they started telling us the history of how many people disappeared in the process of challenging even the likelihood that these ones will also disappear. We're still standing today. The men went into pension. We say the same thing today about Praveen. I get all types of warnings, but you don't know what you are doing because you are playing with fire. This man is very stubborn. I have dealt with the most stubborn ones, not this one. When we start, there's at the beginning some doubt, some attacks, and character assassination. But only with time people begin to listen. So, if the EFF take the demands of this community with commitment and with the energy we have seen before, you can be guaranteed that the issues you spoke about here will actually become the gospel. Songs can even be produced out of the issues you've raised here. They can become so fashionable that no one becomes ashamed to speak about these issues you have raised here. Because they are made a taboo. Leave the issues of gays and lesbians and all of that. Women rights, women, were taboo in society. To say a woman can be a mayor, a woman can be a traditional leader. They were like, you're mad, what are you talking about? It will never happen. But slowly and gradually are beginning to accept that women can actually become traditional leaders. Leave elected leadership, traditional leadership. There is a huge contest in the Bavenda kingdom now, where a female says, I'm supposed to be the king or the queen of the vendors. And then the vendors are saying, yes, correctly so, she's the one who is supposed to come in. But sometimes we vote amongst ourselves and we voted for a man, so she can't impose herself. I don't see them winning that case because the laws of South Africa are very clear when it comes to discrimination. So before, one of the people who was opposed to 30% was Tara Lekodisi Terra in the ANC when the women were fighting not for 50%, 30% against Nelson Mandela. Terra opposed that in the first conference of the ANC. Said, no, not 30%. We can't, these people must be elected on the basis of their merits, not on the basis of quota system. Today, anyone who speaks against that 50% is seen as an enemy of the people, not an enemy of women. So, society is still in denial. Society must be educated, and those who are not scared must have the capacity to push these things so that society begins to accept, must use their power to push these things in society that no, we cannot discriminate the people on the basis of how they were born. You cannot discriminate a person on the basis that this person is lesbian or gay, or this person is an albino, or this person is black, this person is white, this person is male, this person is female. They were born like that. We ought to push that culture. And someone speaks about schools. That's where it needs to start. Not only in schools, in churches. In churches. Because you think that the big problem is actually in schools, but everything else that is done in church, we think is the most acceptable thing. Many activists actually do not criticize the churches that separate men and women. That women sit here and men sit that side. There are a lot of churches, especially African indigenous churches. Some of them separate women, not only Christian churches, including the Muslim churches. So, if you're to come to an EFF meeting and find women this side, and find men that side, and the men are where the podium is, and then women are in something that looks like overflow. They see the bishop or anything like that through a video. It happens in churches where gender activists attend, but they never confront it. And only think that they can win it when they challenge the political space. That which is done in church, we take it as a gospel truth. And when we meet it anywhere else, it doesn't shock us. So we must challenge every space that seeks to discriminate. Our teachers also must not be challenged, they must be educated. Because they are the product of that discrimination. They must be discriminated, they must be educated, and there must be laws that says any teacher that is found to be discriminating children on the basis of their gender orientation, that teacher shall be punished. The same way we passed law on corporal punishment. It must be clear. Yes, it's clear you can't discriminate, but certain people need us to make it explicitly clear for them so that they don't give an excuse that I didn't know. So we need schools that are progressive, we need an education system that is progressive and teaches people to embrace one another. It starts with me. When I see such a person in my family, I must embrace that person. I should not want to discriminate that person at home. And when I assume a platform, I say, no, we must not discriminate. When you know at home that you are telling your own children that but how you go platform, you say something else. You go home, you beat up your wife. When you assume a platform, you say you are against a domestic violence. So, more than a community, it is an individual responsibility. It must start with you, and through you, we will be able to influence a society. We also have to get the creative community to begin to produce the films that are not discriminating. Because in these films and movies we watch, it appears like it's the right thing to say, it's the right thing to do. Hey, we can't be drinking with this carbon here. In the drama called The Queen, there's a man who's permanently on gays snagging that thing. But this creative industry is supposed to expose us to those realities of society to accept that. But equally, it must provide a corrective measure in the same storyline. Don't just say this is a reality of society and leave it there. You ought to provide a solution because you are extremely influential as a creative communities. So we have to challenge our creative industry, we have to challenge our media, we have to challenge television, we have to challenge radio, that we must educate. I've heard the proposal on the establishment of the desk. I think it's a progressive thing. It's the most practical way and immediate thing to do. So that even ourselves as leadership of the EFF were consistently reminded, or no, but when you spoke in your speech, you didn't include these issues. Or, President, you are going to speak in this or that rally. Please, these are the following issues you need to highlight. You've got the voice, your voice gets to be listened to by different people. But in the absence of people who are very passionate about those issues, we say those issues as and when we remember. What type of constraints are we addressing? It looks like there's a lesbian community there. Okay, just include a paragraph there. No. It ought to be in us. It ought to be in our workplace. It must be in our speeches. We've got a platform in Parliament. Every time we speak, let's remind society that anyone who discriminates is not welcomed in our organization and in society. The doctor made certain things. We are here, doctor. Please say if there's anything that we can do in the immediate. We have no power, we're not government. But we've got some influence in some municipalities and all of that. From time to time, we must be approached. People must not be scared to approach us. Our chairperson is here in Gauteng legislature. We've got the councillors in Johannesburg here. You need a venue sometimes. They make you want to pay for the venue. Go to the Johannesburg EFF office and tell them you are in the municipality. We can actually book it under the EFF and give it to you and say, go and use it for free of charge. Or if they say we must pay, if we've got some money, we can contribute that money. Let's work together to influence some of these things. They don't need police. They just need leadership. You've got people in municipalities, you've got people in the Department of Health, in the police, who just have bad attitude. It's not about lesbians and gays only. It's also about generally our people. You've got nurses that beat up pregnant women. Who tell them, no, sleep there. We're not with you when you're doing those things of yours. Sleep on the floor there. So it's not only you, you've got a dysfunctional health system. It has collapsed. So you must be able to say, these are the things. We said to the EFF fighters on the ground, anyone who displays a bad behavior, when you enter these institutions, you must always have your phone in your hand with camera made. We don't rely on Soweto or anything. We've got our own platforms. I've got 2 million plus followers on Twitter, which all newspapers combined do not have. So send us a picture with an attitude, we put it out there and say, look at what this person did to our community member. Once we expose it, you know they act on it. So we must start policing a bad attitude. The civil service must change. It must accommodate our people. It must accommodate the gay, lesbian communities. It must be receptive. If you have a problem, go and ask someone who doesn't have a problem to come and attend to these people because you've got your own problems. Let's not impose ourselves on you. Say it, I've got a problem, let another colleague be assigned to attend to to us. So, women, when they approach police station, till today, they are still told, no, my husband has beaten me, my boyfriend has beaten me, this guy has beaten me. The first question is, what did you do? Why is that question relevant? Because the question should be, where is this person? Where can we find this person? As to what happened, the person shall explain to the magistrate. It's not our case, that one. What have you done? I'm beaten. Even if a person has beaten me in self-defense, it's a crime. That person will go and explain to the magistrate that I beat this person in self-defense. I've got nothing to do with what have you done question. I was beaten. Violence was unleashed on me. Let the police act, then the explanation will come after the police have acted. We need to instill that culture. We need to orientate about that in his addresses, he must consistently remind police that it is not their responsibility to be asking victims of violence as to what have they done for violence to be unleashed on them. That is the most irrelevant, irritating question which we don't want to answer, especially when we are in pain. We want comfort. We want to be comforted. We want to be told that you have arrived at a safe place, your problems are going to be attended to. Otherwise, many people are going to sit back and not even bother to go to police station. Because these statistics we're reading about violence, about rape, it's not a reality. Many of our people do not go to report because of the attitude they receive in those police stations, including in many other government institutions. There's been a request about 16 December. Let's attend to it. I don't think there should be a problem. We've got our media person here, Cinco. You can talk to her after, so we can identify where we can help and where we cannot help. We're going to the list conference of the EFF in January. We'll make sure that indeed there is a representative of this community, because it's important that when so this is how it works. So we must have male, female, we must have a disabled person, we must have a person from this community, we must have a geographic spread. So if you're building a national organization, you cannot have a list with predominantly paid people going to parliament, when ladies are actually the lowest population in society. So all of that, you must look at that, and then your list must be representative like that. You must also address the issues of national question, so meaning there must be colors, there must be Indians. I'm not sure about whites. We're not very strong when it comes to that. But it will not cause anything to look at it if there is such progressive whites amongst us, or to be considered. So all of that must be looked into. There must be, the working class, the people from the mining community, from the domestic workers, from the security, so that you avoid having completely an elitist list to Parliament. So there was a debate now, a very uncomfortable debate the EFF leaders were having with DA Chief about his post-matric qualification. Now, yesterday when he answers the EFF and he says all types of things, and I'm like, he's answering wrong people. Because the debate was not started by the EFF. The debate is DA debate, which was started by DA KZN, saying we must now have post-matric people post-matric qualification people representing us in Parliament. We don't have that debate in the EFF. We will not have that debate in the EFF. It will never exist because matric or no matric, actually we have no matric in the EFF. We don't have a problem with the no matric in the EFF because we know where our people come from. Many of them have had to quit school to go and work to feed their families. But we can't say the same with the SKSL. He has never to quit anything, to do anything to feed anyone. He just suffers from intellectual laziness, which our school. So there's nothing we can do, and it's not only him. It's many of them who uses the color of their skin as a post-matric qualification. So that's what we're having. That's a debate we're having. Not that when you don't have matric, you can't go to Parliament. We actually prefer those people because those are the hardcore, those are the real constituency of the EFF. But we had a problem with this hypocrite who has always been telling us about government people who are not qualified for this or that position and speaking very highly about qualification as if he had. So we're just saying, we're not saying check a fellow. I would not say to now. It's understandable. So I don't know what the qualification, please. Relax. We never said there is anything wrong. And then the good thing which helped that debate, then many of DA people came out to say they don't have post-matric qualification. It was so painful because for every black person to sit with them in Parliament, that person will have to have a post-matric qualification, will have to speak like them. Your pronunciation must be so perfect. If you pronounce like us and say politics, you will never get a seat in the TA benches when you are black and say program. Such people can't sit in those benches, especially when they are black. So you don't have to only have qualifications. You must have qualifications and have a proper accent and speak like them. Because when you meet Musi, in the absence of those people, you're like, what happened? Because the guy speaks like a real Soweto guy. He's proper. But once they come, he's a different person. So it's like that's how they're being trained. You know, you must speak proper. So that was a shock. And to say to black people in the TA, look at what they do to you. For you to get a position at that level, you must have high qualifications, and the same rule doesn't apply to the white minorities. So our list is going to be representative like that. In our list now we have a Mamson T who comes from Marikana, who led the women march in Marikana against the brutality of police in Marikana. Our list has got Mam Kaula, a ground force. We are very proud of them. We give them platforms, they lead us. Actually, the EFF issued an instruction that all public representatives must go and recruit 5,000 people to vote for the EFF. So individually, I'm supposed to bring 5,000 people. I don't have, I've not brought anyone. But Mam Kaula is finished. She has brought 5,000 people already. So you need those kind of people in the EFF list to Parliament who are not scared of the ground, who relate the problems of the people, who don't look down at people. They relate with people so well that when you send them to the people to go and solve issues, they do not have a difficulty to relate with the people on the ground. You know, most of you don't know that Malusi Kigabo, when he became the president of the Multi, He once came to vendor there and I took him to go and address at Unibank. Hey, and then when we were supposed to sleep at 12, Mandla, he's from Pumalanga. He was the president of SASCO. Now he worked at the Public Works National. They had to wake us up at 12:01 because the president of the Youth League was looking for a chicken. So I said, okay, he was hungry, he wants chicken. So I was like, chicken is very easy to organize here, man. They vendor their chicken tasks there on the street. So me, I wake up with him, I told the president, don't worry, I'm going to organize. And then he says, no, I want a marinated chicken. I'm like, marinated what? Why am I going to get marinated chicken? That's when the Youth League was becoming an elitist, where people demand marinated chickens at 1 in the morning when shops are closed. So we cannot have that with the list of the EFF where people ask for marinated chickens and when they are sent to go and do ground work. We need the ground forces who will be able to do what the Romans do when they are at home. That's what we want. We want leadership that is grounded. Everything you said, most of the cameras here are EFF cameras. The media of South Africa, you know, has got issues. With the EFF now. One like that, we don't worry with them. We have a love and hate relationship. So there are times when they withdraw, like and then they withdraw. And then without anyone calling them back, and then they come back like our program's viewership is declining without these guys. So they come back. So don't worry. The viewers and listeners will remind them harshly about boycotting the EFF. So these cameras are EFF cameras. We don't just stream live, we record everything. So that when we have our own moment or we disagree amongst ourselves as to what the doctor said, we just say, go and play the thing. When we write the manifesto, our deputy president, Floyd Shibambo, is the head of the manifesto. So when we write, we play the videos, he listens with his team, and then they are able to then take into consideration most of the things you said here. It's not a waste of time. We take it very seriously. You didn't call us, we called you. We would not have called you if we didn't think that you are a serious constituency. You know, the Tama's first task in the EFF, when we formed the EFF in 2013, his first task was to write an election manifesto. It was very difficult. A task he left without performing. So every time I meet him, I'm like, was still waiting for that manifesto of the EFF. And then they said the guy has got, he was actually writing a PhD on land. And we gave him a commission on land in the first conference of the EFF in Manau. He disappeared without sharing that commission. Dalimbo has to be taken from another commission to go and share the Thomas Commission. So all of these issues are important issues. We don't play lip service. We make them and we will implement them. And we want to thank you for having taken your time to come and listen to us. When I asked Bian if they were ready, he said, when we were still waiting for some copies from Soweto and all that, I was like, Kumbis, are you going to bring us branches of the EFF or are you going to bring us real people who are involved with this community who are dealing with the real? He says, there are real proper communities in Soweto which deals with these issues. I'm bringing real stuff, and when she says, why do you bring us here instead of going to where people are? I'm like, she's correct. That's where the people are. Now we're going to bring them here. We do that because we are not involved. We don't know these things. And once we get the people who know these things to come into the EFF and help us, we will not make some of these stupid mistakes we are making. We have made horrible remarks in the past. I remember I said to Castor Smith, no, there's no such things in a faith culture and all that. Those are stereotypes. So the more we interact with you and the more you educate us, the more we learn and accept that this is how they are. And when we make mistakes, we accept and we correct ourselves as we go forward. So the sooner we bring you closer to the states, the better for us to develop well-informed policies. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Very much. We've reached the end of our program. I'm not sure if there's further refreshments. We'd like to thank the President, the leader of the African Revolution, and now he's going to lead the revolution to fight all struggles in the LGBTI space in Parliament and elsewhere in society. Thank you for coming. Travel home safe if you travel, and let's keep the struggle going, especially here in Gauteng. Amanda!
Camera ese bisa ngap chika me masan ka marota me masan ka le.